Hello, welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Jack Kent, an artist from Newport, Oregon, who draws comics for both newspaper and print. His current titles include Minus Tide, Sketchy People, and Gulls, which features the real-life band Flocker Rocker. He has a ton of merch at his shop, and he has several collections of his comic strips packaged into volumes, which is one of the true joys of the comic book medium. I mean, that is the original binge watch read watch. Jack Kent, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that. ReadWatch. That's exactly what it is.
That's
Yeah, it's got
exactly what it is.
a lot of fun volumes that you can just binge read and read watch and just immerse yourself in all of the wacky tunes that I draw.
Right
And
on, man. Maybe we started it. Maybe it's a new hashtag right here, the read
yeah,
watch.
yeah, I like that ReadWatch. Yeah, and I guess right away we'll just shamelessly get the kentcomics.com so you can go there and purchase all the comics you need from moi and start your ReadWatch #ReadWatch as soon as you can.
Yeah, it's a nice website, and your shop setup is great. You can get LPs from the this Flocker Rocker sort of offshoot.
Yeah,
I should actually pick your brain about that. My college noise band is having a hardcore revival right now,
nice.
and
Yeah,
they want to go that route. We want to release vinyl slash comic books, so you'd be the perfect person to talk to.
yeah.
Um, Maybe we'll just
So
start there. Can you talk about Gulls comic strip and its combination with a real band, Flocker Rocker?
yeah, so I probably spent a good decade or so of my life chasing the rock and roll dream, playing the worst bars, traveling in the middle of the night to random podunk gigs, and that is really exhausting and tiring. But I love playing music, and I adore rocking out with the band. So my other love is comics, and so I started to. And as the band thing kind of did its thing, and the comic thing did its thing, I knew that I was, you know, being worn out and spread too thin. So I was like, well, I got to pick one. And I really enjoyed the comic realm because I get to play, everything in that realm. I don't have to load up the van and go to the show and spend
Yeah.
a whole weekend to just play like an hour long set. So I figured let's just do the comic thing. And as time went on, I realized that inside the comic fantasy and have
Yeah.
these seagulls kind of be the avatar of my, love of Spinal Tap, love of just goofy
Yeah.
stuff with
Yeah.
musical themes. And then I go, well, why don't I actually just kind of call up some of my old musicians and just see if they want to squawk out with me and make some albums. And lo and behold, we did it. And now the band within the comic has an actual real sound. So it's a pretty kind of fun circle all the way around of music and comics finally marrying together.
That is so cool, man. I like the way you phrased that has an actual real sound. How long do you think that took?
It when I really realized I needed to make
Man.
2014, and I was in San Francisco and doing a comic show down there, and I realized let's do it. Let's get this thing going. I think this will be a really cool challenge and really open up the universe of this comic and just kind of push the envelope as much as I can.
Yeah. So you're lagging a tiny bit, Jack, but
Okay.
we're gonna power through. But so what was that like when you were stretched too thin? You're playing shows and you're working on your comics. What was that like actually like? Like what were you working on at the time? How much was going into music and how much into comics?
It was at then when I only did I just had like comic and probably two or three bands
Mhm.
grade, I had more bands than comics.
Hmm.
So being stretched too thin, it was, you know, a mix of work, and then you go to rehearsal, and then you want to do a comic. And I realized that it was just this weird, uh, you know, life of this. It's like a carousel going around, and like everybody's seated on one side, so it's really like it uneven. And I really needed to kind of disperse my time better to get a much more even revolution of life.
Even revolution of life. All right, gotta keep that one in mind, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a whole other thing. So I just want to get a little bit of backstory. You grew up in Newport, Oregon. Are you still there?
No, I'm going there tomorrow, but I live in Portland now.
Oh, okay. So I think you might just get this question casually a lot, but what is the difference between Newport and Portland, say? 'Cause I've never been to Oregon, so I'm ready to learn.
Yeah, Newport is classically a fishing town. It's a tourist town in the summer months, but it's a very small coast town. Probably got about 10,000 people, and it's really cool. Um, it's got a really awesome aquarium. It's got a good little beer scene. It's got, really fun, just classic tourist. We're gonna go walk on the bayfront, get your taffy, throw some bread to the gulls, and then when you drive up back home to Portland, like I do, Portland is kind of a um, especially a great art and cartoonist scene is up here in Portland. So they're
Right,
kind of a lot alike in a lot of regards, and yet they're very different.
right, right. So being being from Oregon, what do you feel you have to sort of explain to, you know, the many, many, many people from Connecticut even who moved there? I mean, I swear I must know about 20, 30 people from my graduating class who moved to Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, I think people arrive. Um, I say welcome anybody who wants to come to this state. It's an amazing state. I'm
Hmm.
not about to get on, a high local horse and say, "Oh my God, you don't know how to pronounce this," or "Geez, you're calling it that." Like, look, it's a learning curve. I
Right.
would go to Connecticut and mispronounce so much stuff, and it's as long as people are coming with a good intention, I welcome them. But sports scene isn't what it is on the East Coast, and I'm kind of very jealous of how much sports are on the East Coast and how revered they are.
Hmm.
They definitely take a backseat here in Portland. The Blazers are great, but I wish we had what the East Coast has got. But yeah, I think overall, in a nutshell, come to Oregon, and it's kind of like you're blazing the trail. You discover what you want out of this amazing place, and don't let anybody tell you different.
Right.
A river like Willamette, um, maybe that's it. But I just contradicted myself. So come on in, anybody and all. It's a great place.
Right on, man. So, speaking of sort of blazing your own trail, you told me just before we started recording that you have a horse that paints.
Yeah, that's well, the funny thing about that is he's an American paint horse. That is his breed. And
Whoa.
so he is the paint who paints. My wife is doing a phenomenal job training him and making amazing pieces together. So he is on Instagram, the paint who paints. You can see all of his amazing work,
I will
even buy his
absolutely.
work. So he's a pretty great equine. So I get to ride him every now and again. I probably undo a little bit of the training that my wife has done because I'm not an accomplished rider, but I'll throw throw the stirrups on and giddy up. So it's really cool having a horse and being aware of that lifestyle. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's really cool. And the fact that he can paint is really a pretty awesome treat.
Yeah, dude, I'm sorry, I must have breathed in some fabric or something. I'm like melting over here. Having a lot of crazy tech and human difficulties here.
But we'll push through, you know, we always do.
We will. I mean, like I'm really interested. I've been wanting to talk to you for a little while now because I sort of found you through social media, and I was like, man, this guy is doing a lot of my, like, honestly, like it's like a childhood dream to collect your own comic strip into annual volumes, you know?
I couldn't agree more. And I think you nailed it right there, Will, in that I remember the first time that bug hit me. It was the beginning of summer vacation, and I was probably, you know, freshman or sophomore in high school. And I was just sitting upstairs in our funky beach house. You know, the wind is whipping around, and I'm just drawing comics, and I kind of stacked them together, and I go, "Oh, I've got a little body of work here."
Yeah.
And then like that kind of body of work just became a drug, and it was so infectious to create more and to actually have something you can read. Um, you know, was it hashtag binge read? No. What's our
Well,
hashtag that we came up with?
I'll have to circle back. Maybe
I
it's not
like
as
it.
catchy as we thought, but I'm still gonna use it.
But
It's a ReadWatch.
ReadWatch, hashtag ReadWatch. Yes, we're gonna make that.
ReadWatch.
And that the first time I did a hashtag ReadWatch was in high school, and just gathering comics and making comics with my friends, and it was a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah, right on. So, and really, what's it like to? Geez, I might have sort of asked this already, but what's it like to look back on a year's worth of work like that? Do you like remember certain stuff? Um, what kind of comments do you get? Do you have someone who maybe picked up your second volume and then they reached out to you for the fourth, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think for me, when I put a year together, the comic also acts as, for me, a journal. It's definitely a memory touch point.
Yeah,
So I can look at a comic and read more beyond what is on the page. I can go, oh, I was here when I wrote that. I was in this coffee shop when I came up with that idea, this, that, and the other. So that it's a really cool thing for me personally to go back and read these comics, because it's a journal in a sense. And it's a joy when people come back and get another comic and say, hey, I've got this one and this one, I want to get this one. And that to me is, you know, when somebody sees merit in your work, and they want to take a step into your life, it's the ultimate satisfying moment. And I couldn't be happier when that happens.
yeah, that's a great way to put it. Take a step into your life. I mean, obviously, you want to hope that your work is reaching someone where they're at, you know, but, you know, ultimately they have to, you know, they got to click on your page. They got to take out their credit card if they're ordering online. You know, in my case, I'm really sort of understanding, you know, people have to even block out an hour of their time if they're very, very busy, you know. Sometimes people can't just decide to watch or listen to something, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what about you? What do you watch? What do you listen to? What do you read, watch?
Hashtag ReadWatch. Right now, uh, I just got this humongous Moomin tome that I'm really
Oh,
excited to jump into. I got that for my birthday, so I'm really stoked to get into that. That's my read watch, and then
hmm.
when I'm binge watching, been doing a lot of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, okay.
My wife and I probably that is our go-to thing to watch. So I probably watch. I mean, we probably watch probably, I don't know, 4 MST3K movies a week, and
Uh-huh.
it's just like, it's so nice to just throw it on in the background.
Right.
Yeah, those are probably my 2 things: the Moomin tome that I'm really excited to get into, and then MST3K.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was like, I mean, I still am really. I tapered off a little bit because I literally had to, but I was very much all about like watching a movie, watching a TV show, and just like staring directly at it through the whole thing. And then like very recently, like I started realizing like for other people, it's like they're doing laundry, they're like cooking their dinner, like stuff like that, like it's sort of like it's like a more sort of it's elsewhere kind of,
Yeah,
like
and I am a student of that watching.
mm,
I have a hard time just sitting and watching.
mhm.
So usually when MST3K is on, I am doing cartoons, I'm doing something else.
Yeah, right
Um,
on.
Movie theaters is where I need to go to really just focus. And luckily, we're getting back to those, so it'll be a little
Right.
bit longer, but I can't wait for
Yeah.
movie going to open back up fully.
Yeah. So speaking of, you actually you set up some pretty cool live events before the pandemic. I was looking at them, and like you're sort of like they're these crazy like hybrid things. It's like, concerts and like a poetry slam, and you're like signing books, stuff like that. Can you um throw out some highlights of live shows that you've done?
Yeah, we did like last year for my comic Sketchy People to do a book release. It was, an online book release, but you release videos and get people interested. And you know, the the beauty about the human spirit is that it'll find a way. You just got to create the avenue for it. We could, all electricity could go out, God forbid, but we'd still
Yeah, I'm
find a
not
way
ready
to
for that.
connect. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, no, nobody's ready for that. Knock on wood.
Nobody's even slightly ready for that.
Knock on wood. But if it did happen, you know, and we'd still find a way to share things. We'd still find a way. We've been to really get deep. I mean, as a species, we've been doing this forever. We've always done this, and so last year was just I'm a cup half full guy. Yeah, it was a hard year, but we learned a lot. We learned a lot, and I learned to be
Yeah.
really thankful for a lot of things. And last year, I learned a lot of how to market yourself differently and how to be,
Mhm.
a zig to the zag and a chameleon and roll with the punches and not to get down on
Mhm.
proactive. And that's really how I viewed last year.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I mean, I'm sort of half and half. I mean, I was not proactive initially, and like, now I have technically found something to do, but there's still plenty of stuff I have to do, and I have to keep thinking differently, absolutely, because of the pandemic.
Yep.
Um, so uh you talk about marketing yourself differently. What was that? What was that like?
It was it was like it's really interesting. It was getting more tech savvy.
Yeah,
Um, my wife is the internet whisperer. She's much better at it than I am.
yeah.
I grew up in Newport on the Oregon coast. Everything's like 10 or 15 years behind what it is here in the valley. So
That's
when I go to
funny.
Newport tomorrow, it'll feel like it's kind of like, I don't know, it could even feel like it's like the late 90s. So I didn't grow up
That's
with
funny.
internet or, TV was, that was few and far between. We'd rent the VCR at the video store. So
Wow.
there was a lot of kind of Amish style upbringing. Um, and, those types of things were really interesting. So I would say there's things technologically I'm a little late on, but having my wife here to kind of go, oh, you do this and hold that down and open up these features, and oh my gosh, yes, thank you. So last year was a big step forward in learning a lot of techno babble for myself.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, yeah, I have learned more, and there's still more to go. Um, but you know, how about that Control Shift N feature to create a new folder? I mean, that is the best. I love that thing.
Yeah,
It's so good.
yeah, all they've got undo on computers now. I've heard about that. I've been
Oh
just
yeah,
rolling. It's if it's there, it's done.
yeah. Get on board, man.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Now, only if
Um,
there's a keyboard shortcut for that, then I'd be set.
so I do have a question about merch. I mean, you've got 3 comic strips running. I mean, are
Hmm.
you okay with saying which one's doing the best?
Yeah, it's Sketchy People by a landslide, and it's the one that I never put any thought into doing ever. And I feel that's how it always works. You know, if you design a logo and you do 3 of them, the one you don't like is the one they're gonna pick. It's not that I don't like Sketchy People, I
Wow.
love it, but it's
Right.
definitely the one that it kind of fell into my lap, it organically formed, and then
Yeah.
everybody just hugged it and grabbed it, and that's the one they adore.
Right on. And just just to catch people up, Sketchy People is literally exclusively about people that you see at the airport.
I mean, yeah, it could be anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, it's anywhere and everywhere. I always have a sketchbook in hand. I'm like I'm like Linda Blair from The Exorcist. My head's always on a 360. Like I'm looking and listening. I don't have green vomit, but I'm always kind of keeping my eye out for that extra sketchy person that they might say something, they might do something that really deserves a double take and deserves a sketch.
You ever worry that someone like knows it's you and they're trying to be sketchier?
Um, I, I've had somebody say, basically stop me and they go, hey, look, I'm sketchy, draw me. And, you know, if they're worth it, then I'll draw them.
All right. All right. So what about actual like apparel? I see you've got the Gulls cap. I mean,
Mhm.
this is really like I'm looking for a leaf from your book, basically. Would you recommend coffee cups? Would you recommend hats? Like where's it at for you?
It's for me, the books are number one. Those are paramount just because it's the work that you do or that I
Yeah,
do. And it's I think the easiest medium to sell. There's something tactile and classic about a book that I don't think will ever go away.
absolutely.
There's just
Classic.
something about holding it and holding a body of work. I've done t-shirts. Those are very difficult for me to move and to kind
Mhm.
of get things going. I used to do hey, I'll buy 100 shirts and I'll do, 50 mediums and 25 larges. And that's just insane. I highly suggest going through something like Teespring. I think that's much more viable to maybe post a Teespring link and have your fans go to the site and have them pick out what they want because it's kind
Yeah.
of print on demand that way. That way you're not schlepping around just tons of shirts. I mean, if you're moving shirts, more power to you.
Yeah.
I like stickers a lot. Things that don't require specific sizes, like you're saying mugs or adjustable hats
Nice.
and
Heck
stuff like
yeah,
that.
man.
Yeah, like keep it simple. I would say doing comic shows. I will anytime I see a booth that is just featuring 1 or 2 items, it's just so much easier to digest um, that body of work, especially if you're new to it. You walk up to a booth that's just got a million things, and you're just like already overwhelmed, and you haven't even spoken to the artist yet. So, it's you kind of got to pick and choose your battles very carefully with merch.
Interesting. Yeah. You said you wanted to mention the Comic-Con scene. Is that part of it? Just how much merch is on the table?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is. I've done you know, the rule kind of that I stick by is that no matter how jazzed and excited you are about your work, and you should be, keep in mind
Nice.
that the brand new person walking up has no clue about what you do.
Yeah.
Um, and you kind of got to really adhere to that elevator pitch, both verbally and visually. You don't want to overwhelm somebody that they just don't want to even come up to you. So the whole Comic Con and doing the comic shows thing is a very fine line, tightrope walk. And I've definitely fallen off that tightrope many times. But
Right.
with each show, you learn a little bit more and you get better.
Cool. Cool. So, what was the best show you had, Comic-Con wise?
The best show I've ever done at a con was probably doing Sketchy People here in Portland, because it's a comic for this city, and I think that's just the magic of why people gravitate towards it, is because it's real. It's the zeitgeist of this amazing town, and it celebrates all walks of life.
Right.
And the tagline is "You could be next." So you might know somebody that's in the comic. You might be that person. Which I've had people come up to me and go, "That's me." And
Right.
it's an amazing interactive comic. So Sketchy People has probably had the best day of any of my comics, just because it's so accessible. There's no
Right.
backstory. You don't have to learn about any of the characters. You just jump in, and it's people. Each page is a new person, and it's very, very easy to jump on board.
Cool. Cool. So, how regular is this trip? Is it every day, once a week? How do we?
Sketchy
How do we?
Yeah, Sketchy People is probably 5 times a week, and
Nice.
sometimes I'll go like 14 days in a row of drawing somebody, and then I won't see anybody for a while, so I can't draw anybody until I go out and see people. So it forces me to go kind of drive around town, take a walk around town, to go see some people. Um, so that one's the most frequent. Then it's probably Gulls that probably gets about 3 or 4 strips a week. And then Minus Tide is probably about 3 or 4 times a month.
Wow. Wow. Cool. Lot of work. It sounds like. I mean, how do you juggle it all?
Um, the best friend that I have, and that is a sketchbook. It is the fluid thought from my brain to my hands to the page. So I just gather everything here, and I'd almost rather lose my phone than this sketchbook, just because it's a journal, and it just, for me, that's just how I work. I work with pen to paper the best to really um, galvanize my ideas.
Awesome, man. That's great. That's perfect. All right. Cool. Um, and then just curious, what's it like, sort of, working with an actual newspaper for your comic strip? I mean, Minus Tide, like, are there occasions where they're sort of like, yeah, this happened in the world, so you can't submit this strip right now, stuff like that?
Fortunately, I haven't run into that. I have been like asked to curtail a joke or a story to something, but
Hmm.
haven't been censored in the sense of, you know, A
Right.
happened, so you can't do B.
Right.
Um, so not too bad with Minus Tide. Luckily, it's very shtick and just quote unquote dad jokes. So it's kind of yuck yuck humor. So I kind of get away with it.
Nice, nice. That's great, man. I'm glad you haven't had that scenario. That's awesome. So um like I said to you beforehand, we sort of started kind of like 10-minute arm of this podcast. So I definitely want to have you on for that. So we might close it up here, but before we wrap, like, who are your guys growing up? Who are a couple strip artists that you sort of took
Yeah,
after?
I think like my Mount Rushmore of cartoonists are probably Gary Larson for Far Side,
Hmm.
Charles Adams,
Okay.
who founded the Adams Family, but his comics that he wrote are just macabre masterpieces. Um, I would be I gotta go Bill Watterson with Calvin
Yep.
and Hobbes.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
Awesome.
and then I'll throw I'll throw an obtuse one that really does mean a lot to me, and that is David Boswell, who did Reed Fleming.
Okay.
And looking at the poster, it's the world's toughest milkman comic. And if you haven't heard of Reed Fleming, I suggest go checking it out because
I will.
the story is so great. It's just this wild ride of disgruntled working kind of superhero milkman, you know, giving the finger to the boss type of thing. Really cool pen work. So I really enjoy David Boswell's work.
That's great, man. I will definitely check that out. I gotta tell you, maybe I don't, whatever people may think. I mean, Bill Watterson is the best, and yeah, I'm glad I really don't mind bringing him up. I know he's very, very, very private. I probably shouldn't even continue this thread at all, but yeah, man, I got his complete collected Calvin and Hobbes on the bookshelf.
It's a beast, man. That thing is like
So great.
you need to flatten some flowers, to kind of tuck away for a future date. You just put them under that thing, and you're good to go.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
can't
it's like
reach something on the top shelf, you just put that down, and you're up to go. And yeah,
well,
I love
that
that thing.
no, I really take care of that thing. It's kind of like my first experience with like home decor or interior design. It's just like
Yeah,
the complete Calvin and Hobbes. I was just like,
yeah,
oh, this raises the standard for like everything.
yeah. I mean, it's like it's no joke. It's a beautiful
I
work of art. I
It
mean,
is
you can, if you need to pump some iron with it,
totally,
you can get going.
totally. I
I
might
mean,
actually do that. I gotta get back to my some sort of workout. I literally might I might do the Watterson workout.
the Watterson workout, man. Yeah, you crack that book open. You can be reading it and then just working out with it too. I mean, it's a monster. I'd be wrong to omit probably. I have to throw in Jim Davis.
Yes.
Garfield for me is a love-hate relationship. I think the first decade of that comic is really good and genuine, but it's been really awfully written for probably the past 30 years. But
Ouch.
there's about from like 80 to 90 or 78 to 88, that comic to me, Jim Davis is like, that is the perfect cartooning style. I adore the look of his work.
I
I
do
just think
kind of know
now
what you're talking about. I
I
mean,
just think now it's just kind of, it's so played and it's not even creative anymore. But back in the day, that thing, for me, I thought that just really was a beautiful strip.
yeah, I do hear what you're saying. I mean, I just pretty much I've read a little bit about Jim Davis, and I totally read his uh Fat Cat 3 packs all the time,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just put him in the good column a long time ago, and I don't really think about it that much. It's just like if I can read like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his volumes, then I'm pretty much happy. I mean, that was a big part of like the ReadWatch. Kind of, you get let out of school for December, and I would just read those Fat Cat 3 packs.
It's empty
Um,
calories. I mean, it's popcorn. Whereas like Calvin and Hobbes is like, that's a meal. It's like, yeah, one tastes great and it's just like, ooh, yeah, more of this. But like, if you really want to get some substance, Calvin and Hobbes has got the substance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Calvin Hobbes really has that thing of like, oh, like they're out hiking or walking, they've been outside for hours, they're like cold, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah,
it's and the way you know, the camera, the POV changes in that comic is really gorgeous. You know,
yeah,
Garfield has been 3 cells, no frame on the middle cell for years.
mm,
I made a joke about that one time of just how much that started to really annoy me. I'd get the comics page and just go, I'm not even going to read Garfield because if it's 3 cells, no frame on the middle cell, I'm done. And I'd open it up and go, done, next. I wouldn't even read it. I'm just like, I can't do this anymore, Jim. It's just, it kills me. Sorry to go on such a, I said I was a glass half full guy, but you know, jeez.
honestly, every single comic book person who's been on here just takes literally like one of the most famous comic book person ever and like goes on a rant about them. And I'm like, I like don't know what to do about it. Like there's honestly like a part of me that's like, oh God, please stop. You know,
Yeah, I know
but
you're doing. I mean,
yeah.
you're great. I think a lot of us should be on a couch over here, and I'll just be like, Will, let me tell you about my childhood. Are you writing this down? Okay. Well, I never got this when I was a kid. You know, no, you're doing amazing work listening to all of us exercise some cartoon demons.
Yeah, no, I mean, okay, I will share. So my guilty pleasure, love-hate relationship, this is a big reveal for me. All right, here we go. Uh, is Brian Michael Bendis. Like, uh, he writes Spider-Man. Do you not know who Brian Michael Bendis?
I am guilty. No, I don't know who that is.
Wow.
The superhero realm isn't my bag.
All right.
So like a lot of it. So I know some. I mean, you know, obviously, like you know, Stan Lee and stuff like you know.
That's all good, man. That's
Yeah,
totally
it's just
fine. That's
my
like
my Venn
that's like
diagram is.
Portland AF as far as I know. Like,
It
but
totally is. No,
yeah,
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 it's so bad when I'm at a comic show and people do amazing cosplay and they'll come up and I'm just like, oh God,
yeah,
I don't know who they are. And
yeah.
like, they're like, do you know who I am? And I'm like, I'm sorry. And like, you're a
Like,
cartoonist and you don't know? It's like, oh, sorry. Oh, it's like I'm in some regards, I'm the world's biggest poser when it comes to cartooning. Just because I'm like, no clue. And they're like, did you see the new Spider-Man movie? I'm like, no.
yeah.
Like,
So
what's your
Brian,
problem?
so that's like, so well, I just gotta. So Brian Michael Bendis, he is basically one of the most sort of addictive reads in comic books. Like, you know, like I start reading his Spider-Man work and I can't stop reading it. But you know, like I have like, you know, like any person who reads comic books, I have like my quibbles, but the fact is he's pretty much in the good column. I mean, he created this new Spider-Man, Miles Morales. He created Jessica Jones, so he pretty much like has his ring in the comic book realm. Um, uh, but you know, like sometimes like I went on this run once, and I was like I like couldn't stop reading his Ultimate Spider-Man run. You know, I
Yeah.
literally couldn't stop reading it, but for some reason I still had beef. Like, you know, I don't know what that is, but you know, like anyway. Um
I'll have to check them out. I need to expand my horizons. That's what, you know, definitely working on in this era. So I'm gonna check out some Brian Michael, some Spider-Man stuff, and I'm gonna see what you said guilty pleasure?
it's a guilty pleasure, yes.
I'm gonna see. I'm gonna read watch that shit.
Read watch it, man.
Yeah.
Read watch it, everyone. Please read watch Jack Kent. We're gonna jump on. We're gonna do HAIPOD in 1098. And thanks very much for watching, everyone. Jack, thanks for coming on. This was really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.